It's weird.
Sorry about my dog. Comes and visits your dog.
Pardon me?
He came and visited your dog a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
She was tight, but they are nice to each other. No, sorry.
We're live? Okay, we are live. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. First up is Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next up is approval of the minutes of March 21st of 2022. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion from Jay, second from Earl. Any corrections or otherwise? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes of March 21st? Unanimous? Thank you. We have a motion to approve the roll of accounts dated March 24, 2022 in the amount of $126,104.61. Dated April 7, 2022 in the amount of $334,496.61. And April 21st, 2022 in the amount of $103,227.10.
So moved.
Motion from John, do we have a second? Second. From Nancy, all in favor,
Karen.
Karen, excuse me, what did I say, Nancy?
Sorry. Nancy's the girl that sits there.
Karen, all right. Actually, you look a lot like an aunt, but that must be it. So anyway, no comments, all in favor? There we go, unanimous, all right.
A few comments, but.
All right, hey, it's been a rough day. It's been a rough day.
I'm feeling better. I might do
I'm horrible with names anyway, so it doesn't.
Right.
I know I called Will something else one day at one of these meetings. Like, where'd that come from?
Billy.
All right, anyway, report of committees. Do we have any committee reports? No? Okay, administrators reports. I guess we'll start. Oh, Jason's sitting right there on my eyesight. I guess we'll start with Jason.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few updates. We have new Meridian science testing that will start tomorrow. That's for 8th graders. So we think we've got everything planned with the tech team and teachers in place for that. So we're excited to do that. If you recall, so that's the second year we've run this. We started it last year, so it'll be the second time. Our NWEA testing will occur the week of the 16th. So the students get a week break and then they get more testing. That does include the 7th graders as well. So more information will be sent home regarding that. We have a chorus concert coming up on May 17th. That is a Tuesday night at 7 p.m. We are scheduling at this point in time to be in person unless there are changes in the next few weeks. And then our band concert is the Thursday, the 19th at 6:30. So excited for that as well. I would like to just give you a list of some names of students and staff faculty that we recognized before vacation for our student spotlight. Amanda, I sent you the list, so you don't have to speed type. So congratulations again to Brody Davidson, Caitlin Gibbs, Madison Hubbard, Lily Stafford, Michaela Ellis, Bella Louvier, Reese Ciolda, Meadow Bradbury, and then our faculty recognition went to Miss Hope Winkin, Mrs. Leslie Pelletier, Miss Ginny Brackett, Mr. Kyle Dooley, and Miss Jenna Petrovic. Many of those staff members were stepping up to the plate every day to keep our schools running, including the week prior to vacation. We had, I don't know, a lot of people out. So Chris and I were covering. I'm stealing him from the high school. So I just want to thank those staff and remind everyone that there's still a lot of sickness going around, and we're still trying to make things work and develop consistency for our students. It has not been easy for them. PE's just been a bear still with the passing of the late Mr. Boldick, for those kids to, we talk about social and emotional well-being. It's just been really difficult for them. So we're starting to see some behaviors due to the nature of this time of year and middle school kids and these factors. So I just want to thank that staff and then all the others for Teacher Appreciation Week. So thank you to all that they do. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, let's see, Mr. Price, excuse me, Mr. Bell.
I'm gonna forego my time for later on, but Mr. Preble has some student recognition.
Okay.
First off, the student of the month for last month was Haley Martin. Haley is just a super sweet kid here at school, a hardworking. Seems like I always say a quiet leader all the time this year, but she's just another one of those kids that goes about her business, but yet when things are needed, she seems to always be a dependable person that people can count on. She's involved in drama, in various things in school, and probably most importantly at this time is she helped organize the fundraiser, a change drive for the Ukraine, in which they raised over $1,500 for those. And that kind of touches home a little more because we have some staff and students that have direct ties with people in Ukraine right now. So she kind of spearheaded that, and we're certainly proud of her for doing that, and certainly a great nominee for the Student of the Month here at Winslow. In addition to that, we've got some students to recognize from the Tech Center. We have some state gold medalists that'll be going to Atlanta in the end of June to represent not only Winslow, but the main Tech Center. Dan Whitman is going for digital cinema production. Steven Spencer is going for mobile robotics. Actually, Dan won 2 gold medals, and his other one is in photography. So congratulations to those 2. They couldn't be here tonight to be recognized, but I think we'll do that at another point. Also, some bronze medalists at that competition. Brooke Cunningham for health occupations. Elijah Hubert for state t-shirt design, Nick Weiss for television video production, and Colin Labby for wedding cake decorating. So congratulations to them.
That's great.
So great job for the Winslow students. And finally, at the main drama festival, we had a number of people get recognized as the all festival cast. So I'm just gonna read their names and what they got recognized for. Some for the play themselves and some for tech or, props and so on. Ben McIntyre for the role of Jabberwock. Derek Capp for Prince Percy.
All right.
Dakota Riley for Tum Tum Tree, whatever. I'm hoping that's a character in the play because I wouldn't know otherwise. Morgan Bersani for lights. Bianca Okoa for lights. Tiana Eames for props and puppetry. Nick Weiss for props and puppetry. Abby McCaslin for props and puppetry. Jackie Susi for props and puppetry. Grace Campbell for sound, and Uliana Bornier for sound. So also congratulations to them for their recognition at the Drama Festival. So that's all I have for tonight. Been a pretty good month for Winslow High students. Thank you.
I would say it sounds very good.
Yeah.
It was a very good play too, so.
If I can just add a side note to Dan Whitman, not only did he win 2 state gold medals, but he was also last week or the week before named the MMTC Student of the Year. So, winning 2 gold medals helps put your name in the hat for that kind of discussion. So congratulations to Dan.
Very good. Mrs. Guy?
Actually, gonna let my 2 wonderful assistant principals do our administrative report.
All right.
Okay, so recently the elementary school recognized some students as well. Last Monday, the week of April 25th, we had another round of student spotlight assemblies. Each grade level had their own assembly. We had it in the commons area of our school, starting Monday morning, and we finished up Friday afternoon, going through each grade level. This was another opportunity for classroom teachers, other teachers in our school, and other adults to recognize students for their respectful, responsible, and safe behaviors, and for making a positive impact in their classroom and throughout our school building. Before I share the names, we'll look to have one last round of these spotlight assemblies next month before the school year winds down. So just to go through by each grade level, the students that were recognized, starting with our kindergarten group, we had Abigail Harmon, Simon Giroux, Colson Smith, Braden Reed, David Fisher, Jocelyn Roderick, Sadie Toivola, Penelope Fate, Arlo Dutil, Isabel Hersom, Gabe Burt Sargent, Avery Ball, and Brandon Corson. Our first grade group, we had Rowan Hope, Jack Flanagan, Cooper Lindy, Alana Rainey, Noel Meek, Jacob Sinclair, and Jonah Chase. Second grade students, we had Olivia Johnson, Cameron Pelletier, Ross Ontario, Andrew Harrington, Nathan LeClaire, Mackenzie Davis, Cameron Canavan, and Tyler Fisher. Third grade students, Brielle Michio, Asher Stone, Frankie Olette, Trafton Netto, Destiny Cotter, Wyatt Doobie, Drayden Gillow, Leah Gray, and Eve Flanagan. Fourth grade students, Riley Roderick, Haley Casares, Anderson O'Brien, Ashlyn McDermott, Autumn Bayu, and Maggie Gray. Fifth grade students, Sophie Willette, Tyrese Jones, Jaden Holt, Mara Tyler, Aubrey Niedermeyer, Rex Morin, Jenica Stetson, Ryan Morse, and Trevor Robinson. And finished off with our sixth graders, we had Olivia Coldwell, Liam Darrell, Adriana Lombardi, Eva Panette, Kylie Latham, and Alana Dorr. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Price.
So to sort of segue off from what Tom mentioned, and also part of our appreciation for all of our staff members, a few weeks ago, Tom and I were invited to meet with the bus drivers to talk about really some congestion issues in terms of our entrance and exits out of our facility at the elementary school. But in that conversation, bus expectations came up. So one of the things that we also tacked on to the spotlight assemblies that Tom just mentioned was we did a brief presentation. Tom found a nice little 6-minute video that was a good fit for what we have for bus expectations. So we showed that video at the end of that ceremony, and also shared our document that's has our bus expectations for safe, responsible, respectful behavior. So we realize that the pandemic has prevented us, in particular, the younger students, the kindergartners. We traditionally have done a step-up day, if you will, a day that they can ride the bus themselves with their parents. And drivers articulated that they have sort of a captive audience. They've got the children right in front of them, they have their parents right in front of them that choose to ride, take that opportunity. We've missed out on that for the last couple of years, and we see it. It's tricky for these younger ones to successfully ride the bus. So we appreciate our bus drivers and what they've done to help keep us rolling, literally all year long. So as has already been mentioned, it's unintended. Spring assessment window is open and active. We started today with some of our state assessments in grade 3. We'll be doing that. I don't expect you necessarily to read this, but this is symbolic in my opinion. This is our assessment calendar. And it's the collaborative work of our specialist, our literacy and math specialist, and our instructional leader, Erica, who had this prepared and ready to go after our leadership retreat in August. So everybody's had this in their hands and we're able to prepare for this. So we have a fall, winter, and spring assessment windows. and it's for the developmental reading assessment for the grades. A math universal screener that we did with iReady. We've talked a little bit about that, which is also done 3 times through the year. And these tools can measure growth of students, which is one of the things that we've been looking for and are getting more and more excited about. Our writing, pre and post assessments for writing, and then grade levels have their own benchmarks that are also given in these 3 windows. And we're into the NWEA for reading, math, and language usage. And grade 5 will be doing the state science assessment. And all of the state assessments are now done on a computer platform. So in addition to representing the timeline of this, I'll just mention to you that we also, I think, have really got a nice tight system of collecting the data. And so there's deadlines for when this information needs to be transferred onto a document that is shared, so that this literacy and math specialist and the administration can use that data to help guide our interventions and our further work. So we're into high drive on that. There's a lot going on here this spring as we close out the school year. A couple other exciting things, segue off from the appreciation comment again, our PTO, if you haven't been over the elementary school, I won't be able to see much of it tonight if you leave here, if it's light out you could, but our PTO decorated the place up today. We've got pinwheels, we've got sidewalk chalk, we've got some window paint, basically expressing their appreciation for the staff and what a wonderful place it is to work and spend our time in. So we thank our PTO for that. And during this month of May, our PTO is finally, after 2 years, found themselves in a position to be active with some fundraising. They haven't had their fall craft fair. That's been the major piece of fundraising for the last 2 years. So they worked up some ideas that some had from their children attending other schools of a coin drive. So we've got 7, I would guess it would have to be, of those water cooler type containers that students are filling that up with coinage. And it's a flat out competition. Whichever one has the most money in it at the end is deemed the winner. And kids are having some good fun with that. So we thank our PTO for their involvement. They've been silently participating with us through this process, but kind of good to see them back in the building. We haven't had many people in our building that have been outside of staff, so they have returned. The excitement level is increasing.
Orange and black looks good.
It always will.
Black and orange, I should say.
Well, very good. Sounds like some very good things going on at the elementary schools. Very good. All right. Well, let's see. Well, Will get anything for us?
Nothing too significant. I guess I'll say that the department is just working to support the buildings in preparation for state testing, as people mentioned, being computerized, and also working right now heavily with the food service department as we're transitioning from one food service program to another. It's the same company, Heartland. They're just migrating most of their customers from their older software to the newer software. So that's all happening on Wednesday, is sort of the spin up and the go live. For that will be Thursday and Friday. So that's basically the kind of work we're doing these days, is just kind of keep the ship moving. But other than that, I'll say no news is good news.
Very good. How about Shelley?
Well, now that spring's getting here, we've been quite busy. Athletics is consuming a lot of our time right now, trying to get our fields ready. Charlie's been working extremely hard. As you all know, it's been a very wet season out there. It's been windy. And normally wind we would love to have because it dries it up, but because of the amount of rain and water that we've been having, it's not drying out so much. But Charlie's working miracles out there. He's doing a great job as always. And some of the things that I learned from him, sometimes it just kind of blows my mind because he's so smart. Because that's his thing, the outdoors, the turf management, that's what he went to school for, so that's what he's good at. So we're really fortunate. I can't say it enough, how fortunate we are to have Charlie with us. The other thing we did in the month of April, every year we always had a custodial workshop on the Wednesday of April break. For the last 2 years, we've not had that. The guys have missed it considerably because we used to do it as a Kennebec Alliance, and which meant that there was several towns that would join us for this alliance, and it would be Messalonskee, it would be Fairfield, China, there was many schools that was involved. But, and they've missed that because over the years, they made friendships with the other custodians in the other towns. So this year, what I did to kind of start going back in that direction, I did a real in-service with our guys here in Winslow, which was fun for them because they haven't been together from other buildings either. So it kind of brought them all back together and, where you been, how you doing, and which was nice. But we did a lot of work on the 20th. It was a Wednesday, and we did a huge amount of work that day. And I can't express enough thanks to Kyle Price and Michelle Lake. They're wonderful presenters. If you ever get a chance to watch either one of their presentations, they can, and Michelle can just kind of pull you right into the story. She's wonderful at it. But Kyle did a presentation on restraint and seclusion and what we can do to offer assistance as custodians in the buildings if there's ever a crisis with the student. And as Kyle explained, it's just simply a matter of holding the elevator door open for them at the elementary school when they're trying to, work with a student that is having a bad day. And so it was a lot of little things they pointed out that we could do for them that would be helpful for them. Michelle did a presentation on sexual harassment in the workplace. And sometimes I think people forget that, what you kid about and talk about at home around the kitchen table, that might be acceptable, but at work with your coworkers, it's not acceptable. And sometimes people do take offense to that. And you just, treat each other with kindness and, just, as I've always been a firm believer, treat other people the way you want to be treated. And that's the way I've always believed in. So I think she did a lot of reminding to us how we need to behave ourselves in the workplace. And we also had one of our vendors, who I'm very fond of, Cleanorama. They came up and did a presentation for us, and it was all about customer service. And that's really what our department is. It's customer service, taking care of our teaching staff, our administrators, and our ed techs, and that's who we are. We take care of our customers. They are our customers, and that was nice and refreshing for us. But then again, we did the annual boring bloodborne pathogens, right to know, how to read an MSD sheet, and so that was all the stuff we had to do anyways. But it was a great day. Everybody enjoyed it. They had a lot of fun with that. Just last week, we dusted off a couple of rooms at the old junior high. Chad was having a very difficult time trying to find an area to do some AP testing. And we were able to dust a little area off for him, and so he could bring his students in, so they'd have a nice quiet space that's comfortable and secure, and they could do their testing and feel comfortable with that. So
if I can interject on that there, Shelley went above and beyond to make sure that was right, and brought in some space heaters to make sure that area warmed up, and I appreciate that, Shelley. Thank you.
Well, that's what we do. That's what our department does, is just, it's our customer service,
She put soap in the bathroom.
But yeah, and we put soap in the bathrooms. We had some nervous staff members. They wasn't sure what they were gonna walk into over there. So it's been a busy month, and now we're starting to work on summer projects, what that's gonna look like, what we're gonna plan on doing, and looking at possibly bringing in 1 or 2 extra set of hands to help us get to meet our end goals at the end of the year. But that's what we've been doing in maintenance.
Very good. Sounds like they're busy. That spring work is, that's all I've been doing the last 2 weeks, so can't imagine doing it at the level that's required here. So, very good, thank you. Michelle? You know, Shelley is, you know,
I know,
talked you
I
up,
hate it when
so.
she does that.
Pressure's on.
I have nothing dazzling, really. But I do have a few updates following up on work that I told you about in the fall that has resumed in the spring with some outcomes. Specifically, this year, I met with all of the department chairs K-12, which is something that they haven't done for quite a few years. So, you know, math from elementary, middle, and high school sitting together to talk, which is a great conversation. So we did that in the fall, and we set some short-term goals, things that we might work on during the year, and then we met again in the spring. And I did that with every department. So I did it with the fine arts, math, everybody. And the things that I learned have been really valuable to me as a new person in this position. But I think the rich conversation they had among themselves, they're looking forward to continuing that next year. And so that work generated quite a few notes with goals and stuff. And I'm not going to give it all to you because it's a lot, but if you would like to know any of the initiatives or the short-term, long-term goals and projects by department, I'd be happy to share what those discussions were and different projects we'll be working on moving forward. So that's been very valuable. And really important to me that every department had time to talk and share what their work has been, what their work is going to be in moving forward and so forth. And so I kind of feel like I've been able to kind of every department, and I'm just nudging everyone forward, and that feels good. It's no one area focused over the other, so that has been nice. As you've heard, assessment season is upon us, and those dates are all on the website, the new website that I told you about. That website is updated with all the dates, and so if you'd like to know when testing is in the buildings, you can check that website. And if you're interested in knowing, well, what is the iReady test? What is NUIA? It's all explained on the website as well. If you're curious or if parents are curious, I try to provide that there. And the other update for you about the website is I recall in the fall telling you I would like to put content-specific pages on that website, the curriculum website, with a parent audience in mind. Because the Atlas program that we use is really a teacher audience in mind. It's not particularly helpful to parents, and quite frankly, teachers don't use it in their day-to-day either. So it's kind of a district platform. So I wanted something that if you were a parent in Winslow and wanted to know what my third grader is going to do in math next year, you could go and in very simple, parent-friendly language, it tells you what third graders are doing in math and what third graders are going to do in mystery science and, you know, what's the high school such and such class, what are those AP classes about? So many of those pages are live now, not all of them, still working on physical education, I'm working on English, language arts, and technology. But science is ready, math is ready, social studies department is ready. So if you're just interested or parents are interested, I would encourage you to take a look and see what the kids are doing in all their classes. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Oh, go ahead, Earl. Probably gonna ask the same thing.
We might. Are there site counters on those websites so that you can,
Like Google Analytics.
well, get something
thing?
just to measure the actual traffic that you're
I tried
getting?
to turn that on.
It's not.
I'd have to work with Will to know specifically
Okay.
how to do that, but I can do that.
So that is a function that can be built in?
Google Analytics is something that exists. We can discuss
Trying to turn it
more
on, but I don't know if I did.
Those more than count page stuff. They collect
Yeah,
a lot of data on their viewers. So,
So there's no way to actually just write a macro or something to know who, to track a parent coming in and just hitting a specific site?
the bulk of your page loads are going to be from web search engine crawlers.
Yep.
And therefore differentiating what's a web crawler versus a real human being.
Yep.
Means you want to turn on some stuff to really, really track people.
My question was about those meetings where the three different levels got together. I picture, and see if I'm, as probably one of the topics, the transitions and what the prerequisites, perhaps like I use math for example, what's needed to be taught in the elementary school so that at the junior high, they won't have to reteach that, or, you know, there's always a little overlap, but.
Right, that's part of the conversation, but truly, if
you're following the standards set for your sixth grader, and you're teaching your sixth grader the sixth grade standards, that in and of itself should prepare them for seventh grade. So I hesitate sometimes, because I've heard this in the science department over here. The high school science department wanted to tell the eighth grade science teacher what to do to get the kids ready. And there's a fine balance in my mind. Like, the eighth grade teachers, their job is not to prepare Earl for ninth grade science per se. My job is to treat Earl as an eighth grader and teach him all the things that eighth graders need to know. And in doing so, he should be prepared for ninth grade.
But as a curriculum coordinator, you do want them to be able to progress up the steps.
That's right. So, and our curriculum with our standards and our scope and sequence does allow that.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
that's addressed.
I think those
And
are
what-
probably interesting meetings.
They are. Well, they're very amiable learners. But what's nice about them is, let's say there's a challenge that's come up in the high school, and there was, or in the junior high, there's like writing prompts. What are you guys doing? And it's an opportunity for the elementary school to say, well, we try this, or the high school to say, well, we have thought about this, and they help one another. And then they get invested. They share their CERs, their writing thing from the high school. They shared it with the junior high. Now they want to try to do that, to make that connection. So I find the meetings very rich and valuable, and it's refreshing because the conversation is all about teaching and learning. And so often you go to a faculty meeting and the conversation is about the lunch schedule and all the stuff. It's not specifically teaching and learning, and that's what I get to talk about. So teachers are very excited.
We've done such a good job setting goals.
Yes.
I would think that people at high school would be interested in reading, at least perhaps the chair of that section would be interested in reading the goals that perhaps the junior high has for that, you know what I mean, to see if they're in line with where they're headed.
Right.
And it sounds like a really good,
I think it's very
I
valuable
think
for
that's,
the district.
it sounds like it's gonna work out well if you have a fall and spring meeting to follow up.
Right.
I like that a lot.
Well, it's great to have, I mean, obviously the curriculum has come a long ways in development over the years, because, you know, been at this long enough to know when our curriculum wasn't, open sequence wasn't as good as it is now. But you can't beat the conversations of getting people that, you know, everybody's reading everybody else's curriculum, but to sit down and talk about it is.
Right, and then they all have access to this, so if I were the math teacher and I wanted to see what is social study worried about these days, they could see the conversation. So it was open for all department chairs, K-12, to be able to see what is being discussed in each discipline. And then, of course, for the principals to have that and Peter to have that document, I think is helpful to just hear what are the issues, what's being discussed, what's our goals, what are our plans moving forward.
What's good is also is some of the teachers that have worked in a certain subject, their past may be different. So perhaps they have something to add to another.
Right.
Is that going to be posted on the website?
I don't know if I would post all of this on the website, but I might post a version of it. I'd
Okay.
have to reread. I mean, it's all my notes.
Right.
Which they were in the meeting. I'd have to scan it with a different lens to make sure I would put it all live, but certainly I could put, you know, goals or things we're working on. Those could be on the website, if that's something.
Good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Jennifer?
Save the best for last.
McDonald's restaurant in Winslow reached out to me to offer a fundraiser, which they've done in the past for our special education department, and due to COVID, they had stopped doing that. So they wanted to start that again this year, and they held it last Wednesday evening, and they raised $375 for our Winslow Elementary Special Ed department. We completed the main alternate assessment last Friday. That's assessing grades 3 through 8 and grade 11 in the alternate assessment for students that qualify to not take the general ed assessment. Josie Bozio, the state coordinator for the alternate assessment, actually came on site to observe the junior high. Our life skills junior high teacher implementing the assessment, Darren Wood. She did that statewide to gather some information on professional development and just to see how people were administering the assessment. And this month we have gotten underway with implementing our remote academic assessments through .com therapy to support Jean Marie Techberg, our school psychologist, in doing some academic testing. That's going really well, and it's really helping her to complete some of our evaluations.
Any questions for Jen? Very good. All right, I think that's all administrators. Okay, very good. Next up is Amanda.
82.74% of the fiscal year has gone by. 80.97% of the budget has been accounted for. And we don't have as much encumbered items this time of year, but if you remove that, it's 80.46% has actually been spent. So we're a little bit more comfortable than we were last time we met.
Mhm.
Is it still freeze on or?
Still soft freeze. Soft freeze.
Right.
Good. Thank you, Justin.
Much better than the other
Right.
way. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Peter.
Yeah, I think in front of you, John has asked for these monthly reports, and we continue to give them to you. So if you look at the reports for April, you'll see that our totals were at 38. Our totals for March were at 43. Totals for February were at 48. So things are moving in the right direction still, continuing to go in the right direction. Everybody is obviously concerned with the uptick in this most recent variant because it's so contagious and it moves so quickly, but so far so good. And we're hanging in there. The other thing that I want to make your attention, you probably heard about this, but on April 13th, the superintendents in the state received DOE priority notice, essentially saying that pool testing for COVID-19 main schools would conclude in May, I think around May 16th. The reason given is that it has a reduced effectiveness. Now I want to emphasize this word reduced effectiveness. They're not saying it's ineffective, but it's reduced. Simply because the spread of the highly contagious BA2 variant. So instead, they felt as though, MDOE felt as though a way to support a better strategy to use would be to make home test kits available to K-12 schools in the state of Maine. If we apply for this, if we apply for the kits as a school unit, we will receive rapid antigen test kits containing 5 to 6 tests for each student and staff member to be used at their disposal to test and make sure that students and people are staying safe. Having said that, and that's all good, we've applied. The kits are on their way. I spoke with Shelley today. Shelley is ready for them to receive them. Once we get them, we will store them and disperse them. However, the nurses feel is the best way to do that. So that's good. We have the kits coming. The other thing that's good is that along with, John?
I just want to know, is there training or some kind of informational sheet that they get as well as the kit?
I believe the kit is going to be the same type of kit that they're familiar with or they purchase at Hannaford's or whatever. It's the same. It's the same thing.
As long as there's some
Yeah. It's just
usable method.
Right. The other thing that we learned is with COVID, things change all the time. And so last week, our nurses attended the state nurses meeting, and that meeting is held with Maine Department of Education and medical professionals from MDOE. And what they learned is that we do have the option of continuing with pool testing if we choose to, through a program offered by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The program is free for our families. Anybody who's currently signed up for pool testing, if they choose, they may continue to participate in the program with no interruptions until the end of this year. Now, some schools have opted in on this because they have the additional support to help them with it. other schools have not. It's totally our choice. In having conversations with the nurses and the administrators discussing the pros and cons, obviously it's one more layer of safety if we want to participate with it. It's not mandatory. It's going to be offered to those families who wish to continue with pool testing as one more layer, because it's not ineffective with the new variant, it's just less effective. So people will have the choice of continuing or not.
Is there a number threshold on that? I mean, if 3 kids in the high school say, 3 families say, yeah, I want my kids to do that, is there a certain threshold number that you have to reach for that?
No.
Okay.
They're reorganizing the numbers that they're putting in the pools, but it's not gonna matter how many. And that information will be going out to parents, just to alert them that this is available to them, to those who are already participating. And I believe those who, if they'd like to join up and start, they could do it as well, but I think mostly it's gonna be for people who are already doing it. The other piece that I wanted to mention was a transfer. Krista Gagnon, who is a teacher at the junior high school, has.
No, junior high.
Yep.
I'm mentally.
Yep.
No, you're fine. I was mentally doing it in my head.
Oh, okay.
Junior
sorry.
high. Okay.
It's okay. I thought I was going in my head. It was fine.
Long
Junior
day.
high teacher. We have a 8th grade math position available due to April Washburn leaving us at the end of this year. Christy has put in for a transfer to that position, and that transfer has been granted. Christy is an outstanding educator and is excited about this new opportunity, and we're quite confident she'll do a great job with it. So that takes care of those pieces.
English, right?
She is, but she's done that in the past.
Oh, well, she's a great teacher.
Yeah.
It's great. So we need a new junior high English teacher.
Yep.
All right, that's everything we got. That's it for now. Okay, next up is public comment. I'm not gonna read the whole introduction thing. We have nobody here for public comment. Anybody's watching online, just so you know that there is an introduction to give you an idea about public comments posted on the website. And feel free to read that so you understand what public comment is and isn't. But you're welcome to share your comments with us according to that.
I have a question for Peter. Are we gonna come back to that, or?
You may come back to.
I had a question for Peter. I was wondering if we were gonna come back to that. We usually ask if anybody has any questions when administrators give their
Excuse
reports.
me, I should have said that, so.
It's okay.
Yes, regarding Peter's comments, I guess, do you have any?
Yeah, it's on a new or related topic. You and the whole team have developed unwanted expertise in pandemic management and continuity of operations. But in reading the press over the last couple of weeks, it seems to me there have been a rash of bomb threats in Maine. And as you have been forced to focus on this one component of emergency management, I wonder if you could tell us to what extent you feel like you and the team have been able to stay caught up on other aspects of emergency preparedness.
Well, thank you for asking that, because we have been meeting, as a matter of fact, and this is not a setup, folks, really, it's not a setup. The administrative team, along with the chief of police and the fire chief and other individuals, Shelley's has been a part of that. We've been meeting on a weekly basis prior to our A-team meetings on what we're calling our crisis plans, because we had crisis plans in place, obviously, prior to COVID. COVID hits, and some of those things kind of didn't get as much attention as they should have gotten because of COVID and everything else we were dealing with. So we have revisited our crisis plans and looking at them with a fine-tooth comb in terms of making sure that we are all on the same page in the event that we have some type of crisis event, ranging from having to evacuate the building to something much more serious, like you've seen in the news in the last few weeks, which is something that we don't ever want to have to deal with, but we need to have some semblance of understanding of what would we do if that were to happen. So we started with the whole language piece that we have in our plans to make sure that everybody understands the various vocabulary that we're using. Is it still appropriate? Should we change it? We have a couple of individuals, Kyle Price and Ellen, our resource officer, attended training. Was it 2 years ago, Kyle?
Yeah.
And the training that they attended was really kind of a different view of what do you do in a crisis situation. These types of trainings have evolved over time, and we've had, close your doors, pull the shade, everybody huddle in a corner. That's no longer the case. We're looking at a program called Alice Training, which really encourages you to do certain things based on the situation that you're in. And one of those things is to fight. Don't just huddle in the corner so somebody can get to you. You need to do something about it so that they can't get to you. And there's a whole layer of different things that they suggest that you do. So where we're going with all of this, in a nutshell, we're reviewing the language, we're reviewing our evacuation points, we're reviewing what would happen during the course of the day if we had to evacuate and half of the elementary school goes out one door. Where are the points that we want people to relocate to? If they don't relocate, if they're in high school and they run to somebody's house, how do they get information back to where we are? Once we get kids at a certain place, we contact our bus drivers. The bus drivers come, grab those kids, bring them to another location so the parents can get them, because parent confusion at the school is going to be massive. Once we get all of these things ironed out, then we're going to have a presentation for the parents to talk about what does this look like. The chief has even talked about perhaps putting a small video together to show parents how all of this works. Just to inform and educate so everyone is on the same page of what would we do in a bad situation. So I'm glad you brought that up. We have been working on it, and we continue to work on it every week.
Through the chair, one thing that I really appreciated over the last few years, by moving to a 2-building campus, we have in one form of just having less buildings to take care of, formed a better security because we have a resource officer now so close. If you're in the high school, you're right beside the junior high, and the junior high is no longer a building with all kinds of accesses. It's got more control and more security, and with the cameras, I just think the upgrade that we have made in the building has lent itself to be a more secure campus in general. So going back to our decision to do that was certainly not the highest on our priority list, but it did bring us those results of a better secure place. So.
Thank you. And you made reference to some threats. There were some threats earlier this week. The two schools, I believe it was Madison High School was one of them, and Coney High School was the other. And they did, I believe, they held the kids. I'm not sure that they sent the kids home in one of the schools. I think they held them someplace in a different location while they checked. But we also received notice on this, and Will can probably speak better to this than I can, but there was the notice that we received to the superintendents that these threats are not credible. It's somebody online that's doing something. They don't know where it's being generated from. It might not even be here in Maine. But it's something that the police are on the lookout and paying attention to. Anything to add on that, Will? Is that?
Well, I'm sure they go to Coney, and they just have to go to the football field.
Yeah.
Until it's cleared. Yeah, and the lovely voice over internet protocol, which allows us to have call centers from anywhere in the world.
Yep.
But have local phone numbers. The technology is out there to spoof phone numbers easily. Folks take advantage of that to call it anonymous bomb threats.
I will say that as a result of that, it reminded us of some of the things that it's always good to have conversations with our folks who are answering the calls. Chad met with his secretaries immediately to discuss a protocol that they have in place if somebody should call in, certain things to listen for, certain things to ask if there's an opportunity to ask a question. Chad then shared that with the other administrators, just as a reminder, and with central office as well, just so that we're all on the same page. Yeah. Interestingly, this particular call for these two schools, the person had a very strong accent. They think it was the same individual that called both places.
I seem to recall a program called Say Something. Is that still current, or is that a?
Absolutely, it was used this week, or it was used either this week or the last week.
About probably every, they're a little slower this year, shouldn't have said that. Yeah, at our level, we're receiving it, I would say, once a month this year.
But is it something refreshed for the students each year, so they?
Yes. Yeah.
I recall that was a good program, and
It is,
probably,
fantastic.
hopefully never be used, but when it is used, it could be important.
Very good. So, anything else for Peter? I did move on kind of quickly there before. All right. Very good. So we covered public comment. And so we're on to old business. So, the first reading of proposed 2022-2023 Winslow School budget.
You should have two summary and revenue sheets in front of you. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see one that says first draft of the board 3/21/22. And then your second one should say second draft. If you go back to the one that says first draft of 3/21/22, and you look at the top line where it says total request, you'll see that the total request in this draft was 18,146,994.30, or a 6.5% increase. Just a quick reminder, the reason for that increase, predominantly salary increases. We are negotiating 5 different contracts this year. $657,823, roughly, and 6 cents. So within those salary increases, there was also new state law. We're beginning salary for teachers starts at $40,000. So that, of course, made some adjustments to the other steps. We have new staff in that proposal of $178,854. A couple of those individuals are ed techs that are needed in the resource room because of case numbers. We have a new math series that we've talked about. That new math series is a little over $100,000, but we're using other sort of funds to support that as well, in addition to local funds. Our oil prices, we're buying the same amount of oil, a few more gallons, but just because of everything that's happening, our oil is $62,196 more than it was last year. And we locked in, which was very good, because not sure where the oil prices are going to be. So those who didn't lock in and just put a number in their budget are all hoping that that number works. And then we had substitutes. We increased our sub lines, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. So the bottom line with that is we had also received additional revenues from the state. As I had mentioned last year, there was an adjustment in the spring. We did not use that adjustment to support last year's budget. We chose to leave it, knowing that we could help with this year's budget by letting that flow into the undesignated to help the taxpayers in this year's. There were some adjustments made to the 279 in terms of student class size, and then other adjustments as well, because they didn't want anybody to be hurt because of the number of students that all schools have lost due to COVID and homeschooling. So we did better with the revenues from the state. We took the adjustment that we had last year, so we added more from our undesignated fund to help with this budget. So the bottom line is, in this first draft to the board, we were looking at a 2.86% increase to the local taxes, or $238,888.20. In this version, we did not have our insurance rates. So we needed to make the adjustment to our insurance rates. Since we presented this to you and since this went to the council, we've been able to look at the adjustments to the insurance rate. The adjustments for us is about 7.5%, I believe. That amounted to about $60,000. We took 40,000 of that out of our request, and we left 20,000 in to up our sublines a little bit because our sublines were extremely high this year. We spent much more than we anticipated. So as a result of that adjustment, if you look at your second draft, you'll now see that the total request is $18,106,691. That's 6.27 total request. But if you drop down to the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see that the amount taxation to locals has gone from $238,888, and that's dropped to $198,585.72, or a 2.38% increase over last year. That's where we stand. And the town council, Erica, is aware that we've made these recommendations, and we're gonna bring these to you this evening for your first vote approval on the budget.
Move to approve the budget for the first reading as proposed.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion?
I think it's one of the best, well-done budgets that I've seen in a long time. It's shows the increases that we're doing with all the contracts, and still comes out with the bottom line of acceptability. So I'm very impressed.
Yeah, and to remind anybody that's tuning in and so forth, or who wasn't here last year, I mean, last year's budget, we actually asked for 17,000 less than the previous year. So, you know, to be able to hold it to this, even after that is, you know, pretty remarkable.
During the contract year.
Particularly during contract years when and the inflationary pressures that are out there on wages. So I think that's, looks pretty good. So, any other discussion or comments?
I believe next Monday night, let me give you a day.
Night.
Thank you. I believe the town council is doing their presentation of the budget to the public, and I believe that the school will be included in their presentation, so we'll be there to answer any questions anybody from the community might have at that particular point in time.
They do have a public comment section.
That's the opportunity for the questions to be asked.
Very good. So if there's no other questions or comments, we have a motion, we have a second. We all in favor of approving the budget as presented? It is unanimous. Very good. Thank you, and thank you for everybody who worked so hard on this, because it's surely many, many hours of very detailed work to make these things come together. All right. So next up, Winslow High School NEASC accreditation report. So that must be Mr. Bell.
That is. How's everybody doing? So last month, there was that little mess up where I gave you the wrong report. So I've given you the new one. Hopefully you've had time to look through it. I know I've spent a lot of time this year talking about a lot of the things we're working on when it comes to this. So I'm not going to rehash all that. However, I know we do have some new board members that have come on since we started this. So I just want to recap a little bit. In school, we talk a lot about continuous improvement.
And we spend time every year, every summer, having a leadership retreat where we set goals and we're constantly as a district looking at continuous improvement. Well, the NEASC accreditation process really started back in 2016, 2017. And those of you who have been around long enough, you know that's kind of when we first started talking this. And this process started with setting up a steering committee. The steering committee included some parents, some staff members, just to review this is where we're at. A survey went out to all parents, and that fed into this self-reflection report that was done by the steering committee and the staff. That was back in 2016, 2017. In 2018, we had our first site visit. And the site visit was to look at what work did the faculty and the steering committee do and what goals did they set. They kind of reviewed, they had meetings with parents, they had meetings with students, they had a meeting, I believe, with the school board at the time. There were a lot of different meetings that took place. They were here for, if I remember right, 3 days, 2 or 3 days, having these conversations, looked at what priority areas did we set. And at that time, we had set up those different priority areas, and if you have your report or if you want to go back to it later on, starts on page 19. Priority area 1 was looking at the current mission statement and saying, okay, we need to develop that into a new vision of the graduate. It's new lingo that was coming out at the time, and so that was one of our number 1 goals. Our second goal was to find a way to better involve parents and students in the decision-making process. How is it we can get more feedback? And actually, I'm proud to say that, you know, one of the good things about COVID was we were sending out a lot of surveys and trying to adapt as things were going on back starting in the spring of 2020. So that kind of helped us move in that direction. Now we're at the point of, okay, how do we continue that all the time? How do we constantly get more feedback on those things that we want to work on as a school and get information from parents and students about what is it that we should be working on? Priority area 3 was, at the time, we were talking about breaking ground for a new junior high attached to the building. Again, you can see how long this conversation's been going on. So one of the things we wanted to do was just make sure that both schools maintained their different identities when that building was being built, when they moved in. Now we've been here for, what, 2 years now, I think. So, you know, that was one of those major goals we wanted to look at. The fourth one was looking at common assessments, and common assessments back in 2016, 2017 needed some work. They were, yeah, we were kind of doing common assessments. They were tied to the curriculum, but the conversation about the data that Earl was getting and Jay was getting and John were getting, there wasn't really a mechanism in place for those conversations to happen between those 3 teachers. And so we wanted to make sure we started to put those things into place. And then last, but certainly not least, looking at classroom practices. And one of the things that was evident in our self-reflection at the time, evident by the classroom observations that the visiting team did, was there's a lot of teacher-led conversations in classes and not a lot of students being active in their own learning. So really taking on, we set a goal to really start down this journey of how can we incorporate these practices more. So again, that visit came the fall of 2018. They gave us feedback on, hey, these are the goals that you had. These are great goals. Here's some possible next steps along with what we said we wanted to do. And then we were to start that work. We were to start that work, start working on those 5 different areas for another visit that was supposed to be in the fall of 2020. You all know what happened. I don't have to go over that. So that got delayed until, it was actually the last spring. I reached out to the people at NEASC and I said, so we were supposed to have a visit last year. Nobody's been in touch. Not that I should be reaching out to say, hey, why don't you come do a visit when we're in the middle of COVID? But I was also a little worried that we missed something through COVID and that we weren't going to be accredited. So I figured you guys would want me to take that pretty serious. So anyway, they're like, yeah, we're trying to get back around to it. Of course, they're up to their neck and they're like, when do you want us to come? And it was like, okay, now that's a whole difference. Like, we've been working, we've been doing good stuff through COVID, but I guess we got to do it whenever you guys can get here. So that visit came last October. And I still, if I could jump in the mind of my staff when I said, hey, this fall we are having our accreditation visit when everything's going on with COVID. The fact that I'm still here tells you the resolve of my staff to believe in the work that we're doing, but I guess to trust me, or maybe there's a voodoo doll out there with kids, I don't know. But so this fall they came, and at the time I gave you the report, we had those preliminary findings on all of those things. I'm happy to report that on April 20th, so was that just before vacation or during vacation, we got the 2-page letter. So all of that came down to a 2-page letter. And I think the most important thing is written in the first sentence where it says Winslow High School has been voted and awarded the school continued accreditation from the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. So I'm happy to report that even through COVID and everything that was going on, and we were up to our hairlines, which is receding, but up to our hairlines in stress, that there was good stuff going on, that a visiting committee came in, looked at it and said, you guys are doing good stuff. The next part of that is continuous improvement, right? Continuous improvement. The old NEAS way was you got your 10-year accreditation, give us a 2-year report, and then we'll see you in 7 years after that. We now have a report due next February. So all of these things that we're talking about with these 5 areas, it's continuous improvement. We're continuing. It's not perfect. We don't have a perfect system yet, but we have a goal of where we want to be. We have a vision of where we want to be. We have action steps of where we want to be with some guidance from them. I look at, we have a faculty meeting this Wednesday. I talked about data collection and common assessments. On Wednesday, my faculty, every department's meeting, they're pulling together data sources because at the end of this month, we have an in-service day. So they're pulling all that data. What's the data we have? What's the data we want to have? So then when the in-service days come, they can look at that, start to plan what are some of those goals for next year. And then at the leadership retreat, we'll look at the common assessment data. What is it telling us? What is each department looking at? Plus, what are the other areas we need to report in February? What's the work we need to do between now and February to get ready for that? So it's just this constant cycle that's going through.
Sure.
And I'll open it up
Yeah.
to questions at this time.
What are they saying as far as the in-progress reports? What's going to be the frequency of those? Is there anything in there that say, give us this in February and then touch base again in 2 years?
First report of progress is February 1st, 2023. Then I have a 3-year report. We have a 3-year report, I should say, in 2025. And then that process will start over at that point of self-reflection, planning, goal setting to get ready for that next accreditation visit. It's constant.
Yeah.
Rather than every 10 years, it's on a shorter, more spaced out timeline. So you're constantly getting feedback, which is good. It's much better than every 10 years. And then, you get a new principal that comes in like I was and come in and everybody's kind of lost focus of what were those major things. This keeps everybody involved in the school throughout.
I have a question that the answer really doesn't matter, but I'm just curious. What percentage of high schools in Maine are accredited?
I don't have that.
I'm presuming the majority.
I will tell you this, there are some that aren't. There are some that chose to go away from NEAS because that old format was not very, what you pay for an accreditation visit and then what you pay over time was a lot. And it was like, they didn't see the benefit of it. So NEAS really changed their ways to try to give that more continuous improvement support to make it more worth your money in the long run. And it did become cheaper. So before you used to have an accreditation visit that might have 10 people. This one, I think we had 4. And then a couple on a previous one. So it's just more spaced out, a little cheaper but definitely better.
More of a continuous improvement model versus
right
now and done and see in 10 years.
Doesn't really matter what percentage, I'm just curious.
Yeah. Jay, did you have a question? You had your, yeah, okay, good. Anybody else got a question? I mean, obviously, they put a lot of work into it. We put our faith in the administration and the staff for heading us in the right direction. It seems to be working, so.
I will be honest with you, when I first started here, there was talks about going away from accreditation, and was it worth, because I think at the time, I calculated like that over the 10 years, it was well over $60,000 that the district paid. And were you getting $60,000 worth of benefit? Now it's not quite so much, it is cheaper than that, but at least you need to have some sort of process of review. What is your process for improvement review? Having outside people come in and look through things through a different lens is always a good thing.
I think our internal goal setting is the most impressive thing that I've seen, and I think that's probably even a bigger impact, but outside people looking at you sometimes helps you analyze what your strengths and weaknesses are.
And having somebody come in that's not just there to try to find those things you're not doing right, but to say, oh, you've already highlighted these things of the areas that you want to work in. Where do you see you going? Here's some feedback, here's some other supports, is a much better process. Most of my staff had been through an accreditation before, and the feedback I got was this process is exactly like I had been telling them, even though I was telling them what I was being told by them, but they said this truly was collaborative, and it really was a collaborative process. With some, not just like, hey, everything's great, here's a rubber stamp. Hey, did you guys think about this? Did you think about that? What about this? What about that? And it was really good. It really was. It was a good process.
Well, that's good, because you and a lot of the staff spend a lot of time on it. And, obviously, if you're feeling it's valuable, then that's good, because it's your time and that's important. Yours and collectively. So, well, great.
And if, I'm gonna look at this, because I think you guys are all more the newer of the board members that, if you read through something you have about, feel free to contact me anytime. So, invite them.
All right.
All right, if there's no question, I'm not gonna stand up here and keep talking. Chris is getting the hook ready for me.
All right. Well, very good. Well, thank you. Good work.
Thank you guys for your support.
Next up, the Winslow Elementary School construction update.
Yeah, so before giving a construction update, I think it's important to just kind of come back and revisit a little bit for those who might be online watching this evening. Quickly, how did we get to this point? So it's been mentioned already this evening a few times that we are now basically a two-building campus, even though we have the high school and the junior high together, separate buildings. We're pretty much a two-building campus, which makes us a very efficient school district, very efficient. So efficient that at the elementary school, now that grade 6 is there, there are no classrooms that are additional classrooms of substantial size that you can use for other things. So if there's continued growth, and we do have this growth factor at the elementary school, where we have kids whose parents come in, want to have their kids there if there's continued growth, or if you have another situation that's COVID related, where social distancing becomes an issue. You all know that for the past 2 years, we've held on to the old junior high school in the event that we needed it again. 2 years ago, we used it for grade 6. This year, we used it for some childcare in the fall. So with the CARES money, ESSER funds, whatever you want to call them, there were uses of this money that school districts could apply for and utilize. Obviously, the first round of money was get your schools open. Second round of money was keep your schools open. Third round of money really focused on looking into the future. And one of the components of that was capital improvement, so that you could look at social distancing concerns that you might have. Well, that was perfect for us because we are so tight. So that was perfect. So we applied to use some of our funds to do some capital improvement. So I say this because this is how we got to this point with this. It also meant a huge need for us because we are lacking space. So that's, how did we get here? So a lot of work has been done between that and now. So last 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, we had a meeting with Ledgewood Construction Company, Pete Pelletier. And we also had a representative from Stephen Black Architects was at the meeting along with the building committee. We reviewed what we have for current budget. The Pelletier from Ledgewood was very clear that based on current market conditions, he felt it was important to get current pricing and not rely on historical data. Very wise. We've been down this road before. That was a very wise move. He said the documents that they put together after the subcontractors requesting assistance with the budget, and based on the current numbers that he's presented to these subcontractors, they projected the cost of the project will be in the vicinity of $2,445,000. The project, as you know, consists of adding 4 classrooms, 2 classrooms upstairs, 2 classrooms downstairs, a few bathrooms, a few small office spaces. It's nothing extravagant. It's based on what our needs are, more space. So funding, as I just mentioned to you, we had 1.9 million that we are using out of our ESSER funds to make this happen. We also had some remaining funds from our bond from the junior high addition to the senior high that need to be used on a similar project such as the junior high, senior high, because that's what the money was intended for. So this lines up perfectly. We're paying on those monies, and so we need to expend the remaining balance of that bond.
Well, just to make a point though, that those funds also did include some work at the elementary school when we made that switches.
They did. So if you take the remaining, the number remaining from that bond along with the 1.9 million, we have the funds to make this happen. And we will, be about $193,000 in the black. Looking at that, I say that, but some of that could be used for furniture for those classrooms. There'll be other costs that come up. But we are within shooting range of making this happen, which is very exciting. And the next step is for Ledgewood to work with the contractors, finalize the estimates. We expect to see a guaranteed maximum price in early May. That's when we know what the drop dead amount is going to be. Assuming that the guaranteed maximum price falls into the existing budget, we'll break ground in July of 22. And the project is expected to take 11 months. It could be a little bit shorter, but it's expected to take 11 months. Because they do anticipate delays in getting materials, thus it would be ready for us for occupancy in June of 23. That's pretty exciting. Now you have, I believe we included a copy of what we received at the meeting for you in your packets. And then I think Amanda made a copy of this for you to look. This is just a part of one of the sketches. And so you can see what it is that we're looking at doing in order to add extra space.
And it does allow for future expansion if necessary beyond just extending out further.
It does. That building had an original blueprint, and Shelley can tell you all about this, where there could have been another wing added on. That's where they're going with this. And if you had to extend and continue in the years to come because you have more kids, to do that. All good news.
I like the contingency built in. It looks like it's a fair amount.
Yeah.
So I think that's gives you a little leeway there.
Well, he's got contingency in here, but when we get to the guaranteed maximum price, the contingency will be pared down to a smaller percentage, because
Of course,
it'll, things will
be
be
closer
more
to the
so.
actual,
10% they choose what they predict.
Right, yeah,
so that's good.
so it's coming together,
That's it.
so. All right. Any questions on that? Okay, too quick, I got there before. All right, new business, kindergarten screening and last day of school for kindergarten.
Hello, everyone. I didn't think I would talk at all. So we talked about this the last time we met, and tonight I'm hopeful that you will vote on it. Historically, kindergarten screening has been 2 days in May. The kindergarten students don't come those 2 days. We invite incoming students and their families in. Because of COVID the last 2 years, we've done things a little bit differently. And so we've looked at, what is a best fit for our current students and those incoming students. And so we are asking that our kindergarten screening be the last 2 days of the school year. And so our current kindergarten students, their last day would now be the 15th instead of the 17th. And the 16th and the 17th will be the incoming students' kindergarten screenings. And as we talked about the last time, it's a benefit to those kindergarten students because there's no disruption in their school. And it's an opportunity for our kindergarten staff and the others who work with those students to sort of end one thing before they start something new. It also gives us the opportunity to have an additional month to acquire any new registrations, because typically, we're also doing a screening in the fall for anyone who registers between our screening and the end of the year. So it gives us an additional month to get all of those students. So that's what we're asking for.
Makes sense.
Any other questions?
Any questions? Or if no questions, I guess.
Motion.
Entertain a motion.
The present kindergarten has no issues with seat days. I mean,
We're in the kindergarten level anyway, right?
No, not.
there's
Technically.
many.
And because a certain percentage of our students are in school, it won't impact seat days.
Okay.
Motion to accept the plan as proposed.
We have a motion from Earl. Do we have a second? We have a second from Hildy. Any discussion?
Just a question. I wonder why this is something that comes to the board. I would have been perfectly comfortable with just getting a report from the elementary school principal that this is how we're handling kindergarten screening. And I certainly will vote in favor of it because I think the administration is more than capable of making this decision without asking us how to do it. So it doesn't even necessarily need a reply. I just wanted to say that I think the administration is perfectly capable of setting this up, and I wouldn't feel put upon if this was just shared with us as an information item as opposed to an action item.
I wonder, through the chair, I wonder if it's because anytime you take a couple days of education away from a kid, that's an impact on the kid, even though it's only 2
affecting the
days.
school calendar, which
So maybe that's why they, I would
I
guess.
think you got it.
I would guess
It's like
that's
you're
why.
ready to.
Yeah.
Because I think
It
every
was a
single
change
day
to the
is
school
important.
calendar.
Yeah.
We did,
Called it.
you'll notice on the proposed calendar for next year, we included it so that we're ahead of the game. So it was just something a little bit different this year. We wanted to make sure the board was on board with this change.
We're gonna vote yes anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
All right,
You got it.
Let's do it. Let's
all right. Okay, we have a motion. We had a second from Hillary. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the proposal as presented? It is unanimous. Thank you. All right, disposal of school property. I think this one should be pretty quick.
Calendar.
Oh, calendar. Oop. All right. Now we're talking about calendar. We know one of the changes are for next year.
God, it ends on,
I think other than that,
it
it's
ends on a
generally.
Thursday.
So this is
What
the,
we do?
this is the school calendar has been, shared with, the administrative team, it's been shared with the association for feedback. Typically, we bring this to policy meeting as well, and we do need to have a policy meeting in the very near future. We can certainly bring it there. More input. This requires 2 readings, so we're looking for a first read tonight and then a second read later. What you see there is, you're back to, total seat days scheduled is 178. We have 3 snow days built in next year rather than 4. And the only reason the 3 are built in is because of the way it ends in the year. We're hoping to end it in a certain spot. Total days schedule of 183, that doesn't change by contract. The early release days are, and the days for professional development have been scheduled approximately where they were this past year, so that's very similar in this particular calendar. We will come back to you in the month of May, probably with board meeting dates, which we'll then add to this calendar, but we'll have that at the next meeting.
Are these in-service days equitable with like 2018 pre-COVID?
Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the calendar as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Earl, do we have a second? Second by Karen. Any other discussion? All in favor of approving the calendar as presented? Is unanimous. Thank you. All right, so now we can go to disposal of school property.
Yeah, this is back when we were in AOS. Evidently, there was a piece of equipment that went to Mount Miracy, an oven, an old convention oven that went to Mount Miracy to assist them. And it's been there for many, many years. It was of no use to us, and they were looking for an oven because we had students that went to Mount Miracy. And they were looking at, because we had students there, and this is something that they needed. It was an extra piece that we had at the time. There were revenues involved with that because we were helping with the food service program. Long story short, it's been there for a long time. Things are changing over at Mount Miracy. I believe under a different, I don't want to say ownership, but a different management. And the question is, can they buy or can they buy the oven? The oven is worth nothing. It works, but it's really worth nothing. And so we do have a policy of disposing this type of equipment, and we need to bring it to the board. And our recommendation is just to leave it, give it, because it's really no value.
And it's completely off our books. We don't need to replace it. This is a formality.
It is.
Yeah.
It's hardly worth talking about.
All right,
It is, but I want to make sure that
Right.
Yep.
all right. Do we have a motion to approve this is information. We don't have to act upon this. So we just needed to be informed, right? For the
that's all I
policy?
want to do.
Okay.
Let you know.
All right. We can go on.
Thank you.
All right, vote on appointments. We have a lot of 6 appointments.
1, 2, 3.
John,
Move to take as a lot.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to take them a lot. Any discussion about taking them as a lot? All in favor of taking them as a
Got one
lot?
question. We don't need to, the Christy Gagnon is just an administrative switch, English to math. That's not an appointment.
That's correct.
Okay.
She's already an employee.
Got it.
Okay, are we unanimous as taking, well,
Take it as a lot.
who's in favor of taking them as a lot? Let's put it that way. Unanimous. Okay, very good. All right, now, do we have a motion to approve the lot of appointments?
So move.
Hillary got her hand up first. You can be a second. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the appointments? Lot, all in favor of approving the lot of appointments? It is unanimous. Very good. We have resignations, of which you've already accepted those, and we thank these people for their service. some have been with us for quite some time. Other business? Do we have any other business?
We do. Oh, it's, okay, number 15, I'm sorry.
Yep, that has its own line.
That's all
All
right. I knew there was something else we had to do.
All right, I think we're all good on other business. We do have an executive session. Before we enter that, there is no actionable items coming out of the executive session, so when our live stream ends, when we go into executive session, we won't be coming back to a public because there is no actionable item, so just for those streaming, they're aware.
Jim came in, is there
Update.
any update from athletics? Through the chair.
Well, unfortunately, our lacrosse field's still a mess, so, we'll play the Thomas this afternoon, we'll play Kobe Wednesday night at 7:15, but everything else is great.
All right.
Sounds good.
Kennebec Savings, is that
KSB, yeah.
KSB?
I'm sure it's pretty squishy.
Squishy and it's very uneven right now, we can't roll it because it's too wet.
No, it's gotta be rolled at some point, or else, that field, can get
Well, it's
rough.
unsafe, we can't play on that, even
Ankle
when it
turn.
dries out. Unless we roll.
All right, very good, thank you.
John?
All right,
No, I was gonna.
was there anything else before we go into executive session? Okay, so,
Motion to go into executive session per 1 MRSA Section 405, subsection 6A, compensation of officials, appointees, and employees.
okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of going into executive session? All right.